Okay, so I'm gonna jump right into it. No holds bar. Um, One of the key things that I've come to realize over the years of studying metaphysics is that people in society have no earthly idea of the power of words and symbols. We literally live submerged in words and symbols, and we take them for granted. We walk around, we see signs, we see advertisements, all around us, stop signs, traffic lights, words everywhere. Everywhere you go, you see words and you see symbols. And one of the key misunderstandings is that the magic, the mystery of life has been taken away from people. They've been pretty much taught that all they are, in a nutshell, is high functioning animals. And then anytime that you do learn any form of, for lack of a better word, spirituality or religion, it's usually based, and I hate to be offensive, but it's based on a doctrine that makes or suppresses self. You're either taught that you're full of sin, or you're taught that you need to detach yourself from your desires. Rewinding, what people need to realize is that human beings are symbolic creatures who use language, and that language and symbols are not just language and symbols only for mundane communication between one another, which is not really mundane at all. If you think about it, that in itself, the ability to manipulate sound to communicate intricate details back and forth to each other is magical in itself. But what people need to realize is that symbols and language is much deeper than that. What happens is in animals in the wild, like dolphins, orcas, they're known to have complex language. But what happens even on a higher level with human beings is that animals in the wild, and people need to understand this, and I'm going to rewind just a little, or I'm going to go back, or I'm going to pause in this to bring attention to this. And what I'm going to bring attention to is time and time again, magic is tied to the instinctual nature of the animal state. You'll see time and time again, whenever you study anything from Egyptology, whenever you study anything from Native American cultures, African cultures, they use totems. They use animal elementals, is what they call them. So you're going to see a man who has the head of a jackal, the man who has the head of a hawk, a woman who has the head of a lion. When you go in Native American cultures, you see people running out of the woods wearing eagle feathers. You see people worshiping serpents that are like men and stuff like that. And this is all over the world, not just Native American or African, all over the world. You can find this. The farther you go back, the more that they are using animal totems, and they're mixing humans and animal form. What they're telling you, and what people misunderstand, especially hieroglyphs, and hieroglyphs and symbols are some of the oldest forms of language on the planet, is they're telling you that language, speaking, and art, or what we call art, language, is the key way. Symbols, sigils. You can see them like the Nike symbol, Coca-Cola, words that you speak, language, art, is the key way to reprogram the animal state of mind. And the animal state of mind is the container. It's actually where you find, it's the container of all evolution. And evolution is magic in itself. So the animal usually evolves based on a reaction to the environment. And there was a gentleman by the name of Aleister Crowley. Really wasn't that great of a guy, but he was really advanced in occultism. And he said that magic is bringing a result by, pretty much, I'm paraphrasing him, but he pretty much said that you're using your will to overcome certain things in your environment. And that's what animals do. You can take creatures who were once reptile, trying to escape predators, or trying to actually catch maybe prey, started developing wings. and feathers, and later became what we call the bird species and stuff like that. So that's a key ironic thing if you think about it, because the Egyptians worshipped the Nefer, which they showed as a serpent with wings. But what happens is you have the ability with your mind to go into the animal part of your nature, the R complex that I talk about all the time. And in that state, you have the ability to cause adaptation, to be an adept, to be a high adept. So basically, you can adapt or evolve to anything you want if you have control and mastery of language and symbols. And this is where mantras, magic words, supposedly, and symbols, sigils, come into effect. And you can see this all around the world when it comes to magic. The word spells, or if you ever go to a spelling bee, comes from casting spells. This was something that these people all knew. They knew the power of the word. Even in the Bible, in the New Testament, it says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh. So people know that these words that you speak, they have an effect on the very development of you as a person, and not just that, but the development of what you would conceive supernatural abilities. The advancement of what you would think of as superpowers comes almost exclusively through the ability to master symbols in words. And this is where all magic lies. And this is far, far from just superstition. This is far from superstition. People think, oh, it's just magic. You're not just going to say a magical word. What happens is when the word reflects the self, because the self is where the magic is. The self goes into the DNA. The self has an effect on the DNA. And then from there, the DNA helps you to adapt or shapeshift into anything that you need to become in order for you to function on a high level. So I'll break it down a little further. What happens is the self, the magic, is not just the mind. A part of it is the mind, but it's the mind in unison with the heart, the emotional side, and then in unison with the gut instincts. Now, if all three of those aspects that I'm talking about are off balance, let's say somebody is really rationally intellectual, but they're out of touch with their heart and their gut instinct, they'll they won't have the same power, they won't have the same fire, they won't have the same passion to make it manifest no matter what happens. Let's say somebody has a strong, passionate heart, but they don't have the guts, they don't have the courage, they don't have the mind, they don't have the open mind that makes them adaptable. They don't have the open mind that can take in information and utilize tools to build them up. And they'll have a bunch of passion, but they'll burn out. They'll burn out because they don't have the direction, they don't have the guidance. So when these three things come together, what you'll have is somebody who can attain supernatural power. And this is something that, now I'll be totally honest, that I've come into full understanding. When I say full, there's nothing that's really full. There's nothing that's really perfect. I should say a better understanding of recently. So, a lot of times you'll hear stuff like The Secret, Power of Positive Thinking, and these things are correct to a certain extent, but the key element that you always have to remember is the words, the expression of the word, the expression of self. The manifestation of self in the symbol is the ability to pull out self, look at it, correct it, and then take it back in. It's similar to having a coach when you're an athlete, or a trainer when you're an athlete. You're fast, you're strong, you got skill, but they tweak certain stuff, and then they teach you when to use your speed, when to use your skill, when to use your strength. And then you become a better and better and better athlete. This is the same thing that's happening right now when people utilize words and symbols. The symbol is not supposed to lead you away from yourself. It's very important. The symbol is not supposed to make you go after others. The symbol and the magic word is supposed to take you deeper into your own self so you can look at yourself, perfect yourself, and then become supernaturally powerful. That doesn't happen overnight. People don't learn how to run, talk. They didn't learn how to ride a bike. Sometimes they did, but most of the time they didn't. They didn't learn how to read overnight. This comes by constant perfection. This is where they come in when they say mantras of language and symbols. So one of the key things that I dive into when I start speaking about archetypes, this is something that I've been invited up to North Carolina to speak on archetypes, is archetypes are universal symbols. Archetypes will tap you into, remember I said that language and symbols are the key to magic and superpowers. Well, archetypes are a higher form of language that taps you into both nature and the group consciousness that you share with others. So it's almost like if there was a certain amount of power in one individual, now they can pool it in what you call a universal consciousness, which is in touch with a galactic consciousness. This galactic consciousness is called the Akasha Records, if I'm not butchering the word. But what happens is you tap into that database, that resource, via your mind being, and your heart and your gut, your very psyche, your soul, yourself, being taken up higher through symbols and what we misunderstand as magical words, or words that help you tap into your higher self, and yourself is eternal. So this is something that I will be touching base on, and I will be going into more depth so you have a better understanding of, and you'll know how to utilize these aspects of your psyche and yourself. You guys have a great evening.